Greetings everybody and welcome to another video dedicated to mechanics you did not know existed or may have at least forgotten. It's been a while since I did this just because it's kind of hard for me to single out what people might miss because people miss a lot. I miss a lot too. And sometimes there are kits that are so complex, it's like you don't even know what's going on. I'm going to try to cover some of those too. But this is a video series that is very helpful for you to comment and give me examples so I can make different videos and explore those surprising mechanics for everyone else. So sit back and enjoy. First, we're looking at Rey, and in a previous edition of one of these videos, I talked about how the word resistance doesn't show up in her kit at all. She is truly a light side galactic legend because her synergy is with all light side. That's why she is so flexible. But one thing I wanted to talk about is how she recovers health. Rey's health is very integrated into her kit. It's a very important thing. But as far as health steal, she has 0%. Now this is uncommon, and a lot of people might miss this because you're kind of used to every character having a little bit of health steal at least. From some point in the gearing process, or from mastery or something, or from relics, I don't know, where they're going to be healing when they do damage. But Rey has 0 health steal, and this is why she loves health steal so much on Datacrons. The only way she has natural health steal is from her basic. If it's her turn, she has plus 50% health steal. So if she's doing a basic outside of her turn, she's not going to recover any health. But if it is her turn, she will. That only is usually very impactful if she's ramped up a lot of mastery through the enemy getting turn meter. Because otherwise, that basic isn't doing much damage. But that's the only way to get actual health steal recovery without the help of a Datacron or something. When she does have a Datacron, everything is recovering health for her. Her Whirlwind and her ultimate. And the ultimate does so much damage that even if you have a little bit of health steal on a Datacron, she might heal all the way back to full health, and she has a crazy amount of health, or you can get her up that high. This is 240k multiplied by, or the base, multiplied by 90% health. That multiplication, by the way, this is another mechanic I don't know if people fully grasp. So this 10% max health and max protection multiplier that Galactic Legends have, it applies to the pre-mod figure. So here I have plus 112,000 for mods. The 90% would be applying to 130,000 health, which is still a big chunk. But if you're counting on the health being a post-mod figure times that 90%, that's not how it works. So yeah, that's probably something you might not have known about Rey. Next, we got Admiral Raddus, and I want to talk about some mechanics that allow him to beat Reva teams as a serious punch-up mechanic. I talked about in a previous video some of his anti-Empire synergies, like the daze. When Empire enemies gain bonus turn meter, they're inflicted with daze, which can be resisted. So that's part of it. I already talked about that before. That is a big help. Inquisitors gain a lot of TM, the Imperial troops gain a lot of TM. So that's all over the place. One of the big, and everyone kind of knows about the exposes when you get critically hit and how Jin can't die with Raddus, and that's a big part of cheesing it on offense. But another big part of beating Inquisitors, and Reva specifically, is in the Spark of the Rebellion buff itself. So Rogue One doesn't have a ton of punch up, or a ton of damage behind its attacks themselves, except for Raddus's Big Hope ability. They kind of rely on exposes, but against Reva, that doesn't help because she doesn't care about exposes and she revives multiple times. But with Spark of Rebellion, if you kill her with an ally that has this buff, Empire enemies can't be revived, and that includes Reva. So you only need to get her down once. The sides on an Inquisitor team are pretty susceptible to all the exposes. Just need to hit them with some AoEs. But then when you kill Reva, if it's with Raddus or someone else that has Spark of the Rebellion on them, they're dead. And overall, it's just a pretty serious buff. I featured it in my favorite buffs video several months ago that didn't get many views. But you get 40% offense with it, 30 speed, recover 20% health and protection when they attack, just attack. That's why this team is so good on offense. The banner recovery is insane. And even when you lose the buff, you gain 40% turn meter. 5% upload progress, and then protection up 50% for 2 turns. It's just an insane buff. On any other team, you would just be blown away by it. But it's part of the big reason why the Raddus team is viable even to begin with. Another cool thing about this ability that helps against Reva and maybe Tuskens or some other dark side comps is his middle ability it's pretty clearly a heal and a mass assist. But if you're targeting a dark side enemy and they're debuffed, you increase their cooldowns by 1. and that can be pretty important if you're targeting Riva. You can prevent or you can delay the healing immunity across your whole team. If you're fighting Tuskens, you can get off on Tusken Chieftain. You can prevent the cleanse for all the explosives. So it's a very useful ability that I don't think gets a lot of attention. Next specimen is Katarn, and this might be a little bit shorter, not necessarily as practical, but just some cool things I forget about in his kit, so you might too. One is the synergy with Jedi Knight when he finally gets 2 Jedi Knight after doing a bunch of basics. 10 is what he needs. His first special, he's going to heal the whole team, all Rebel Fighter allies, for 50% health protection, which is not insignificant. That is a crazy amount of health and protection recovery. And for his unique, he actually has anti-Sith synergies. So I know Mon Mothma is kind of cleanup team sometimes for Lord Vader, and part of why they can stay alive is he gives Rebel Fighter allies 50% defense and tenacity if the enemy leader is a Sith. I don't know how many and what interactions this is really going to help you that much, but they also gain 25% max health too. Just some nice defensive bonuses when you're going against Sith. The other thing I wanted to point out is when he has Jedi Knight on him, his special does an AoE Force Influence, and it's easy to forget what that does. It's kind of like a buff immunity combined with daze, so it's an extremely powerful debuff that I don't think gets a ton of clout that it deserves. And for Galactic Legends, it's significantly nerfed, minus 30% counter chance, which is basically nothing. But that is an amazing debuff that is native to just Katarn. Last thing, and plenty of people are probably paying attention to this, but it's a nice little clause and is unique that whenever Rebel Fighter allies attack out of turn, they gain 12% offense up to 60% until the end of their next turn. And that's not just for their turn, that's just with the out-of-turn attacks too. So on a Mothma team, this just builds up until the whole team has maybe 50, 60% bonus offense. And it also is going to help a lot for these newer Rebel fighters that were just brought in amazing already, like think Captain Rex, Saw Gerrera, that weren't from the era of terrible Rebel fighters. And this can really stack up and really get pretty powerful overall. Next one we're looking at is BB-8, and this is for all you light speed bundle players that have him and don't understand him. Most of what I want to focus on is you are always wanting to do the specials, even though it might not seem like it's doing much. His basic, it does inflict tenacity down, but most of the time that's something you want to happen when you attack out of turn. On your turn, you're passing around secret intel. Eventually everyone's going to have it. He gains 8% turn meter for each ally with it, so eventually it's going to be 40%. Is reducing the cooldown of Illuminated Destiny by 1 for each ally with secret intel. So eventually he's reducing it by 5 every turn. And that's just an amazing attack. Like, this is what's so good about him. It basically gives everyone a bonus turn. You're clearing off all your debuffs. So even if they have daze or something or stun, you're cleaning everyone off, giving close to a bonus to 80% turn meter, but giving all these offensive buffs, advantage, crit chance up, crit damage up, offense up, speed up, and then recovery for resistance and droids. So it takes a long time to get there. I mean, the cooldown is 70, but it's kind of surprising how fast you do get there because of secret intel popping off and reducing the cooldowns. But that is his main use on a resistance team. With droids, he's great for extra turn meter. I'm getting 8% for each active droid ally. That's why people throw him with General Grievous. This is now more advice for players that just got him. But he's kind of flexible. He could be with droids or with resistance, especially under JTR. He's fantastic. But that's really, you only want to do specials with him on his turn. Next subject is Saw Gerrera, and I'm afraid to even approach his kit because it is so convoluted. It's so long. Like, look at this. This is so long. This is not even like the Omicron level added. Once you have the Omicron, it's really small. But what I did want to focus on is how Saw wants to hurt his allies, specifically reducing their health to build them back up and to build things up. So he gives a lot of stats out: crit damage, defense, speed. It's just ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thing. He gains speed up. But all allies, if they're above 10% health, so this is the threshold, as long as they're not on death's door, they lose 10% health. That's not like reducing max health. They lose their 10% health. And then they get crit damage up and heal over time for 1 turn. And those are important. The heal over time really plays in. Because whenever they recover health, they gain 1% max health and offense for the rest of the encounter. And if you see him out there, if you have a Chirrut Imwe as well, you get tons of heal over time, tons of different instances of recovering health and offense. That's why he combines well with Health Steal as well. His health is going to be crazy high, offense gets crazy high. And he also takes away buffs from his own team, which is kind of a weird thing. On his special, you get turn meter for each buffed ally and enemy, so everyone. But then he dispels all buffs on all allies. I don't know if anyone else does that. And then Rebel Fighter allies recover health for each stack of heal over time dispelled. That's just very weird. You don't see dispelling buffs from your own team. Also on his leadership, I didn't point out that you're getting extra speed per stack of heal over time, so up to 50, and that happens a lot if you have Chirrut on the team. You get 10 stacks of heal over time. On his own team, this clause is at the beginning of the encounter that everyone loses 10% health, but on his turn, everyone loses 15% health and gains 2 stacks of heal over time. So it's just a really weird mechanic where you want them bouncing in and out of full health all the time. And in his unique, he has clauses built in for when they fall below 50% health. If they're a non-tank, they go under stealth, dispel all debuffs on themselves, and like they're hidden, they're under stealth, they're protected until they get back to 100% health. When this spell expires, they recover 100% protection and gain 30% crit damage and offense for 3 turns. It's ridiculous. This is like playing into how Rebel Fighters have the reputation of being underpowered. We have these overpowered leaders and mechanics to go with it. If it's a tank that falls below 50% health, they still dispel debuffs and gain heal over time, but they get crit immunity, defense up, and taunt until they're healed to full health. When the taunt expires, they get 100% protection and 5% crit avoidance and defense for the rest of the encounter. That doesn't go away. There's tanks like Cere Junda out there, Scarab Rebel Pathfinder, Base Malbus. They are getting so tanky over time if they're allowed to repeat these cycles of going low in health and healing all the way back up. Which is why this is a team people sleep on. Like, if you don't kill them fast, they get out of control and it's really hard to zerg down. You can't bring in these little weakling teams. You gotta destroy someone really fast or just have a really strong team that can hang in there. I'm not even gonna talk about the explosive traps. It's just like really complicated. But you're kind of on a timer with this team. It's very strong and I think it's pretty underrated. Next, we're going to talk about Cere Junda. She's also a pretty detailed kit, one of those Jedi Knight Cal Kestis requirement kits, which are all pretty complicated. But I want to talk about why you might want her slow, why you might not, what the reason is, and you decide if you want her slow or not. But the first thing is her whole team gets bonuses. The UFUs gain 5% crit chance, crit damage, and offense for each enemy turn taken before any ally takes the first turn. So if the whole enemy team goes, that's 25% of all these stats. If you have the Omicron, you get an additional 10% crit chance, crit damage, and offense, so 15% per enemy turn taken. If the whole team takes it, 75% bonus of each of those, which is a lot. But if you have any character fast at all, like kind of falls apart. So if you have the whole team slow, but one character fast, like if you have Malicos really fast or Ahsoka Fulcrum really fast, this kind of falls apart. I personally don't really care too much about being slow. But another reason you might want to be slow is at the end of each of her turns, her cooldowns are increased by 1. And whenever an enemy takes a turn, her cooldowns are decreased by 1. So enemies taking turns, she gets around to her specials faster. If she's taking a lot of turns, it takes a long time. That's why in the special mission TB, you only have 2 allies and 2 enemies. Her cooldowns don't seem to move. And this ability, which does a lot of damage based on max health, is a cooldown of 10. So if she's taking a lot of turns, if she's super fast, I mean, mine is pretty fast, relatively, you're not going to get to that ability. But if she's slow, you're going to get to it faster. And if the whole team is slow, you're going to get more in-stat boosts. Next character we're looking at is Tarfful, and if you watch my Green Arenas, you know I've had some issues with this guy, just underestimating him and not bringing in enough. One of the reasons for that is he has these sneaky heals and turn meter gain that really hurt Bad Batch. So Bad Batch echoes AoE, takes away all their buffs, inflicts daze, and healing immunity on them. But they gain turn meter and health through it all, because whenever an ally has a buff dispelled, Tarfful gains 10% turn meter. That happens before the daze applies with the order of operations. That is infuriating. And also in the lead, whenever a taunt expires and they have a taunt a lot, they recover 25% health. So you will simultaneously see daze and healing immunity pop up while they are gaining turn meter and healing up, and it's very infuriating. And one of the reasons where you see outlandish damage figures from them is just this clause. At the start of each Wookiee allied Wookiee's turn, they gain offense equal to 200% of their defense until the end of their turn. And this is especially impactful because on Zalbar, because Zalbar gains defense like no one's business. 20% defense each time he takes damage from an attack for 1 turn. So if he sits there, and especially if you're reducing his turn meter and just keeps taking attacks, his defense is going to skyrocket, and then he's going to do an AoE and just wipe you out. So it's really crazy. But another thing that I don't hear people talk about much is when you apply the Zeta, as long as there's no Galactic Legends, it's basically half of a Steadfast Retribution, that annoying modifier from Conquest that Padme has that hurts you for hurting them. Whenever an allied Wookiee is critically hit, they reflect 50% of the damage dealt back onto the attackers. That's half of a Steadfast Retribution. That is crazy. So you are hurting them and getting hurt. I think the impact isn't as noticed as much because they have such high defense, and sometimes you're attacking them with teams that have a lot of health and protection recovery, but that is quite a strong mechanic. That's what I'm going to talk about with this kit because it's very bloated and I could be here a while. And we are done with characters for now, so I want to talk about 2 different ships. First one is Sith Fighter, and I want to explain why this is so integral in Leviathan mirror matches, and why you're seeing it in the starting lineup now. And it is all because of this unique. This ship gives out a lot of foresight, which is kind of annoying. The main thing is when an enemy falls below 100% health, all Sith allies gain 25% turn meter. That includes the capital ship. That includes Leviathan. So if you're in a mirror, this is why people R9 their Sith Assassin. If you get to go first, you can attack, ignore protection on debuffed enemies, get them under 100% health, and get your Leviathan to go first. You sabotage the engines, they're going to slow down. That is why this is such an important ship in that fleet. I will not take it to R9. I'm going to keep using Chimera, and I'm not going to use this in the starting lab because I don't want to commit to high relics on a crappy character. Yeah, now you know. The next ship I want to talk about is Scythe. I have always thought Scythe is an amazing ship. It's a key component in the Leviathan counter right now. But one thing that's not always talked about in the guides, not even in my video, that's really going to benefit you in the right circumstances, is this last clause. The first time an allied Imperial TIE Fighter defeats a ship, all allies gain 100% turn meter. So, as long as you're not dazed, and you defeat a ship with a TIE Fighter, that counts TIE Defender, and then the normal TIE Fighters. It might even be TIE I don't think it's TIE Advance. But if you kill a ship, everyone gets 100% turn meter. This is like the Chimera is a crazy turn meter trained team with TIE Defender. That is a big part why. And it's really nice if you pay attention and notice when that happens. It is really smooth. Another thing I want to point out, which is why this ship, any ship with Scythe, Chimera, Executrix, is going to be so great against Negotiator, and potentially if people start using Mace. If the enemy capital ship is a Jedi, Allied Empire ships gain an additional 70% max health, which is crazy. And he hands out protection up with this special. So that's going to be really, really durable against them. You might be able to eat some of that AoE mass assist from Negotiator. Just really strong. You're not really going to use it there much because you need it for Leviathan all the time. But this is an amazing ship. That's it for this one, guys. I think I covered a lot more than I have in the previous Surprising Mechanics videos. But please share your examples with me so I can cover them for a future video in this format. Don't forget to like if you did enjoy or find it helpful. And sub if you haven't already. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you guys later.